What I wanted to start with was actually the background on how we met, but also kind of your history. So if you wouldn't mind, quickly, because we're
20 years of quickly.
do it in 3 tweets. Like,
so
how'd you get into auto?
22 years in, I got actually in through college. My roommate in college, parents owned dealer groups, and I was always the kid who was fixing everything for his computers and dorms and stuff, and got introduced at the time where the internet had exploded in the dot-com bubble. So I kind of figured out the tech stack of automotive space back in 2003, 2004, dated myself now, to where it was really nothing to where it is today.
Yeah.
And meeting you, it's, 10 years, 15 years now?
At least, yeah.
But we're getting old. But it's aligning with people who see the same vision. And it started back, it was like 2014, 2015, when Prodigy had come about as a digital retail tool.
Yep.
And
I remember this.
It was Palm Beach?
Yeah, Palm Beach, Florida. And you were at Germain Automotive Group.
Correct. That's
right?
when I was at Germain at that time.
And one of the things we realized that we lined up perfectly on is most people think of digital retailing. They think of it as an online experience. They think of it as something that the consumer should be doing. What was different about the playbook that we were trying to execute was, what if you thought about equipping the salespeople first with an amazing experience, and then that would actually drive a great customer experience second. So rather than going, hey, here's the most complicated process you've ever seen in your life, but hand it over the keys to the customer and just hope to God they can figure it out on their own. It's like, actually, it is a complicated process. Let's make our salespeople superhuman, and they are going to provide such a great experience to the. So we actually started that alignment of in-store and online probably pretty early, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it hasn't changed. I mean, we still face those same challenges today.
Totally.
So.
And then what brought you to Casa? When did that happen?
So Casa was 2 years ago now, after the exit over the AI company I was at before.
Yep.
So left Germain, partnered on as CEO of an AI company early 2018, and then had exit, went full-time there in 2020. And
tell me, tell the audience actually how big. I know how big Casa is, but how many stores is that? Where's it located?
Is now 17 stores between Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and constantly growing. So, but the fun thing with that is, when we're coming in with our alignments of whom we are and kind of where we vision everything, it was a great brand in the community. Everybody knew the brand, but the tech in the stores did not align. We had Tony's here, 4 different DMSs, I think, at the time. 10 different marketing agencies. All creative was different. Budgets were different. I mean, it took a lot of work. And it's now become not just a brand, it's become something that's the living and breathing machine of not just a namesake, but to how we operate, how we transact, and how we do business.
Yeah, so that's what we wanted to talk about today, was basically we're seeing the same pattern happen again. And how can we take the in-store and the online experience and marry those a little bit closer to each other, so that the online website experience should essentially give you a feeling that matches up with what you get when you actually go in-store. I don't know how, I'm going to give you cool secret signals like that, to let you know when to switch slats. So what did we start with, right? We started with this idea that websites are incredibly slow in the industry. Actually, if you have a website, does anybody raise your hand if you know Google Core Web Vitals? So yeah, that's my type of audience. Okay, so if you're a 50 or lower on Google Core Web Vitals, you are slower than 70% of the internet, which is crazy because the average in automotive for a score is a 26. So we're the bottom barrel of the internet. We already customers already what is it? Would rather have a root canal.
Yeah.
But also probably would rather go to a dentist website too.
It's faster.
And so the way to think about it, right, is Jared and I got together and we were like, okay, how do we explain this to general managers, general sales managers, etc. It's like it actually goes back to this idea of alignment again. If I told every one of your salespeople that they had to wait 6 rings before they ever picked up a call, right? They're at their desk, customers calling them. We've worked so hard to get that lead, but you have to sit there. It's 2 seconds per ring, and just watch it 6 times, and then you pick up. Hey, my mic died. Then you pick it up, and nobody's there, right? Because someone hung up. That's what we call bounce rate on
What the website
internet.
is.
Yeah, totally. And so that's the first thing we wanted to solve, not just because website speed is a metric, but it's actually a unique thing because it's equally a metric and a feeling. Like, think about that. How many things that you measure every single day also provide a feeling? Like, customers actually inherently feel it, right? So you quickly realized, right? You get into Casa. Day one, what are you noticing?
The fragmentation. Between stores, we brand as one, but the experience between our Nissan store, our Ford store, our Kia stores, there is no cohesion elements of that guest experience across any stores. And even from a creative element, nothing had aligned. Yes, a logo, but the branding, the optimization of the ad, QR code usage, backlinks, nothing was the same. So it's hard to build something and grow something if you're measuring different data across 17 rooftops. It's extremely, extremely difficult. So that's when, first thing we had to was to align the DMSs. Because I think, to me, and we've talked about it, that is the core vital of operations, to have that set first so you can have the data to continue to grow. And then from there is when we started talking and started building the group site.
Yeah. Effectively, what I hear is you have to reflect and say, are we actually one brand? Right?
100%.
I think most dealers struggle with that. There's 2 different playbooks you can play. There's either the group site is important, and it's important because it's a reflection of the most important brand that we carry, which is ourselves. Or, like my uncle, we have 4 dealerships in Burlington, Vermont. It's an Audi, an Acura, Volkswagen. Actually, 3. We sold the Chevy. To get any of those brands, like to buy a VW or buy an Acura or buy an Audi, you have to drive 3.5 hours away. He actually effectively does not need a brand. He's like, cool, go to Boston. Like, you want the Audi? I'm here. It's like he's got a monopoly on 3 brands. That's a playbook too. A lot of dealers like to play that playbook. But as you get into more competitive metros, as you start expanding, et cetera, then brand starts becoming extremely important. But what brand is not, it's definitely not a metric. And we've actually become a little bit too metric drunk, I would say.
Hungover.
Yeah, in our industry. So you were sitting there, right? You walk in, we start working on the website. How did you want to alter the brand?
So it wasn't an alter of brand. It was making the brand come to life. One thing we did was we standardized our brand guidelines. So we went and with assistance from Paul, helped put together the brand guide.
Yep.
And that really kind of was the aha moment for us to look at, okay, what's on brand, what's off brand? What is the bumpers of, going bowling, for example? What are those bumpers and guide rails that we need to stay within of who we represent, how we represent it, and how we're not only perceived by the customers, but most importantly, by our own employees. So how does that reflect us across all of our different avenues, from sites to community events and everything behind it? So that was kind of the aha moment that we need to make the brand come to life. And that's what we've done since.
Yeah. So this is CasaAutoGroup.com. And I would encourage everybody, if you're probably on your phones already, to go to this website.
Speed.
Yeah. One, you will feel how fast it is.
That's a good one, Chase. I'm telling
Means I
Liza.
have to go talk to our dev team. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is, the group site, this is when you come to, this is what you're coming to. The funny thing about this that we learned, just this year at our general manager meeting in Scottsdale that we had was, because we've expanded into the north of Phoenix market into Prescott, we had to, once again, pivot and grow. So the tagline was always Mi Casa, Su Casa, which represented New Mexico, El Paso perfectly. But one thing, as we're evolving and we're growing into other markets, knowing Prescott is a kind of a destination for a lot of retirees from California. It is a predominantly high wealth area and location, predominantly Anglo in terms of a cultural component. Our tagline and our branding did not align with that geolocation. So we ran that for a year, and we were getting feedback from the community. We're like, why are they saying this? Why is this here? And we had to start taking a step back and looking, is this still who we are? And the answer is yes, but we needed to evolve as we continue to grow, not into just Arizona markets, but any future markets. We had to rebrand our tagline, and we changed it to Feels Like Home, which has a whole different kind of take on it and has been perceived extremely well by that community because we had to just explain a simple difference of a language barrier.
Did anybody ask you during that experience? Because what was so awesome about working on this was I don't remember anybody asking what is the ROI of brand during that conversation, but did you get it behind closed doors at all?
A little.
Yeah.
But it's ROI is measured multiple different ways, going back to the hangover of data and dashboards. ROI is measured just in a cash element, but it's also measured in an ESI from our employees. And our employees, in that market felt like they weren't part of the Casa company.
Yeah.
They felt like they were on an island, and on an island that did not make sense to them because it did not fit
And it was fragmented
into that. So it was extremely fragmented.
Yeah.
So this kind of forced our hand to grow and evolve. And I know a lot of dealers in the room are growing, adding more stores and evolving. And this is something that completely missed. And that's okay. We've learned, we've grown, we've pivoted, and it's given us a better blueprint. So as we continue to grow as an organization, we need to study not just a buy-sell document and a financial model from the broker. We need to go look at the census data, the populace data, and the community sentiment as well to ensure our branding fits the community as much as the financial model makes sense for an acquisition.
So people might get really frustrated during this presentation because I've almost entirely avoided putting numbers in it on purpose. It's very easy in my line of work to get excited about data, excited about metrics, excited about optimizing based on whatever the trend is in terms of GA4 analytics, etc. I'll do one here. We increased the website speed quite a lot. Do you have any memory on what the lead increase was?
We saw a increase in 2025 of website leads conversion from the group site. After the switch, it increased 8%.
Let's go. Okay, next up. What was the next line of work? You have this new website, but you still have the OEM mandated sites. They're forcing you to do a bunch of stuff you didn't want to do, but you have to do.
CTAs.
Yep. How do you optimize that so that's closer to the actual offline experience?
I mean, we had to measure what the guests wanted, and it's, we walk out here and we're in the casino area, and our dealer websites felt like we were walking through a casino at times with the slot machines going off, with the pop-ups, the bells, the whistles, the chirps, and everything behind it. And when we look at a great customer experience, that doesn't define what great looks like. There's an application for pop-ups, but it should be on a different component.
You have a super cool way of doing this now.
Yes.
Yeah. Can
But
you?
I've had to
Are you
spend-
allowed to share? It's kind of like
absolutely.
I feel like it's secret sauce.
So
Yeah.
we've removed pop-ups on initial website visit. So if a first-time visitor comes to the site, you will not see the pop-up. It's on the recurring. And it's based upon your ASC event that you abandoned. So, Jason, if you were there and went to the trade step and abandoned that trade event and did not complete it, you come back to sites, you will start seeing a pop-up on site for $2,000 additional trade assist. If it's on a finance form, same thing. We finance this, rates as low as this. So it's really structured to that guest experience and not just a let's throw everything at the customer first time they're here. It's like when we all checked into the hotel, when we came here, imagine having the concierge come to ask you, hey, do you want to book a spa day? Do you want to book a cabana for the pool? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? You haven't even checked into your room and you're getting pounced and harassed by them. You know, that's not the experience you would want. But you go check in, you get your room, and they come, hey, I'm here to serve you. Are you interested in any of these things? It's a much different experience that way than the other.
Yeah. Number one thing to take away from here, go on your website and try and categorize the different things that are operating on your website into bouncer or host. So there's a difference between taking a lead from someone and receiving a lead from someone. The most extreme version of taking a lead from someone is when people lead gate their inventory. They're like, I'm not even going to let you look. First name, last name, email address. You're like, well,
Zip code.
yeah. Imagine putting a bouncer in front of your dealership and you're like, you can't even come in here. Give me your ID. It's like, that's a bouncer, right? A host gives information to receive information. And almost every category of widget that we buy today can be basically put into one of those two buckets. What's interesting, I think, with Jared's, he's actually using a combo. Because there is a moment where pop-up actually becomes a convenience, where it becomes more of a concierge experience on that second visit. This is the closest we're getting to math. So as you're kind of thinking about optimizing the in-store and online experience into each other, how did you look at creating meaning, right, through effort?
So it's value versus perceived value. Going back to that, the real value of the customer, to your point, is to come to the website. If you look at your web traffic and your behavior of your customers, they're coming majority of the time to one of three different instances: inventory, service scheduler, or specials. That's where we found most of that. So are we providing enough value on those three pages to be worth the consumer's effort and time to be spending on the site? So it's optimizing those three specific pages that we know are getting the traction from the consumers to make sure that they are converted. The problem, we had focused on the child sites and some of the mandates, is all of the OEM restrictions that we deal with, but also all the things we have to have on there. I mean, you go look at your average dealer website and they have 15 GTM containers.
Yeah.
And 6 different Google Analytics ad, components tied to it, and AdWords accounts, and that kills the speed and that kills the performance. I mean, if you look, how long does it take for your inventory to load when you hit that page? It's extremely disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, so effort without meaning, that's what friction is, right? Another good example to think about this, and like it's weird because I'm a digital guy, but I want you to imagine that you have a copywriter write something perfect, something beautiful, and you have the choice between either emailing that or using direct mail. I bet if we used common digital marketing knowledge, you would be convinced pretty quickly from a metric standpoint, from a cost standpoint, that the right answer is to use email because it's basically free. Get those words to a bunch of people's eyes and inboxes. But using that same logic on another important event, say you were going to get married, you wrote out the invitations and you said, I know what I'm going to do. I'll email everybody In 6 months, we're going to get married. Come meet us here. What do you think the show rate of the email is going to be? Could be the best. You could have J.K. Rowling, you have Tolkien writing that email, and it's not going to perform as well as direct mail, right? It'd be better actually if you wrote a handwritten note and sent it as an invitation, and more people will show up to that wedding. So interestingly, as we've started to pay less attention to feeling and more attention to metrics, what we've done is we've started using mediums that don't create much meaning in our brands. Another great example would be YouTube pre-roll, right? You could have Doritos could spend $1 million on a Super Bowl commercial. If it aired on YouTube pre-roll, or if it aired at the Super Bowl, one of those has way more meaning just because of the medium that they're being presented on. What we all get scared on as an industry is we go, but there's no metric. I can't quantify that meaning. And so then we avoid it.
Yes, you
right?
can.
But you can. Yeah, exactly. Some more math. I know you've taken advantage of automation and personality, right? Because you're starting to scale this. Mm-hmm. How are you taking your brand and scaling it?
It's by living out what we've put forward and what we've now started. We've done in the past, but we didn't see the way to really communicate it to everybody 100% of the time. That's just the value adds and benefits of who we are and how we operate. And you mentioned direct mail. That's a great one too. We do QRs with the direct mail of, trade assistance or payments or whatever it is, but we always have a QR code on that is scannable for a consumer that will go down to the page to promote our cost advantage program. The benefits of us, who we are, how we operate, FAQ pages, just rich content just to educate and inform the consumer of, hey, yes, you might be buying a car, but you're also getting all of these additional benefits as well. 7-day money back guarantee, all the different benefits of us. So it's using this to get the information out there, but it's also to help enrich and strengthen our trust score with the communities to continue to grow the brand that way.
Yeah, if you're on, actually, QR code coming up next. Not really. Miscalculated. QR coming next. If you're on Costa's website, you can scan that QR code and go to their advantage. There's not very many dealers that I run into that choose to advertise their process. And
Carvana
meaning
does.
Exactly. Meaning, most of the time you're not advertising a process because you're not proud of the process. It's not actually that great of a process to talk about. It's usually just a why buy. Yeah, we're lowest price, promise, blah, blah, blah. It's but if you think about it more of, hey, I'm trying to online set the expectation of what you're going to experience once you're in store, then that becomes a whole reason to advertise.
Well, it all comes down to what are you advertising? How many of you in the room are only advertising price or payments? How many people are actually actively advertising the experience difference and not advertising price and payments?
Yeah, I know Chris is, for sure.
And with that change, what did you see in terms of the benefit? The experience in store now meets the expectations.
Online.
The adverse effect of it is you're putting yourself at risk and out there, because if you're going to advertise this message and you don't meet that expectation, all you're going to do is get 1 million pissed off Yelpers all day long just tearing you up on your Yelp page. So.
Totally. Can you go back one slide? No. Yep. So another way to think about this is to try to figure out what part of the game you're playing right now. Because, in fact, it's not actually about doing exactly what Jared's talking about. It's about figuring out and implementing your own game and then being proud of that process and talking about it. Because if I went to any one of you and said, hey, how do you feel about having random strangers pick out food for you? You'd be like, that sounds pretty gross. I don't want to do it. But that is Instacart's entire business model, right? They're trying to trade convenience and they're trying to turn that into profit. If I said, well, how about this? Instead, let's go on a Sunday in like the early hours of the morning, and we're going to go to 7 different stalls and wait in 7 different lines to get 7 different vegetables and talk to the farmer that made those vegetables. You say, that sounds really inefficient. You're like, that's a farmer's market. And actually, we do it all the time as a date with me and my wife. It's like, that's trading experience for profit, right? Either one of those is actually just taking the thing they're so good at and advertising it and setting the expectation as being something awesome and then executing on it. But if you talked about it in the poor way, it's like, oh, hey, how many people want to go sleep on a bed that 1,000 other people have slept on? It's called, it's a hotel, but we love it. We do it all the time. Where are you on that game?
Somewhere, we sit more on the farmer's market element right now as a brand with Casa, but we're also incorporating a mix of that Instacart so that we can cross every different consumer component to it. Because some people want that grassroots experience, community of, giving back. And there's some people who just want to buy a car and never step foot in the door. So we have to be able to serve those multiple different personality profiles of what they're looking to accomplish.
Yeah, how are you doing that?
So it's by setting the expectations of you can buy online, you can buy in store. We can go back to doing what we did with Prodigy and, be transactional. We can completely remote sign, 100% remote. I bought my wife's car on an airplane. I never signed a single piece of paper. So technology is not the hard part. It's the process, it's the execution, and it's advertising that to us.
Right. Making sure that when you get a digital retail lead, it's treated completely different than if you got, say, like schedule a test drive or something.
Correct. And I always look at it's like for Instacart, and I haven't been to the grocery store in probably 4 months. It's convenience.
Totally.
But we also, I don't know if you've used Instacart for anything, just crazy off the wall type stuff, because we have to with multiple kids. But we look at that and it's like, I needed something and I went there to deliver for me. So think about the last time you bought something.
Yeah, I bought a long balloon thing for my daughter when she broke her arm to protect it from swimming. It's a very random.
Okay, so the waterproof thing for the cast.
Yes, yeah.
So do you remember the store you bought it from on Instacart?
Honestly, I have no idea. It was CVS, maybe Rite Aid, maybe any of those.
But you remember you got it from Instacart.
I remember Instacart for sure.
So you solved that customer. You were that customer who was in need, demand, execution, purchase.
Yes.
And we have that in automotive, so we have to fulfill that. But we also have to fulfill the people who want that down-home experience.
Yeah. Yep. Makes sense.
Self-explanatory.
So some takeaways to try and optimize not for metrics but for feeling. Next time you are in the back of an Uber, you're not on Wi-Fi, you're not on the dealership Wi-Fi. Open up your mobile phone. 70% of your traffic is mobile. Open up your own website. You have 2 bars of 4G LTE because that's 30% of America right now. That's what they operate on. And go experience what your website is when it's not pre-cached, when it is just a first impression. Because most of your traffic, that's what it is. It's people that are like, oh, you know what? I'm kind of in the market. Let me see what these guys are like. Click. And they are in the back of an Uber on 2 bars of 4G LTE. And if in the first 3 seconds, you just are staring at a white page, they're probably going to hang up. They're probably going to go back to TikTok. Next big one, this was from Jared, trying to figure out where the bouncers and the hosts are. So categorizing who's a bouncer, who's a host. On my website, am I stealing leads, taking leads, or am I receiving them? Find ways to become a host. Find ways that you can give more information in order to receive something back. And if you haven't already, it sounded like this audience was super progressive. Go to pagespeed.web.dev. Go see what Google thinks about your website speed, your UI, your UX. They're trying their hardest to take some of these things that we're talking about with feeling and quantify it into actual metrics.
Well, Tom.
Yeah. I think we could even take questions.
Yeah, questions.
Yeah.
Jason doesn't have questions.
I was just thinking, like, because it's a challenge. How did you, when you're implementing change like that across a group, we don't generally push things top down a lot, so that you end up with fragmentation sometimes because we don't think everyone's used car photos are only exactly like this. So when they hit a group site, it looks aggregated on. Did you guys take that top-down approach to do that?
So we did initially, and then we actually went and made it GM discretion with standardization of photo order and structure and overlay and backdrop. Now, just like any dealership, you're going to have some people that go rogue and go do their own thing, and you're going to have to correct the behavior, but that's our job and accountability. So we educate of the reason of why. And that's the biggest piece is the used car manager may want to change something or do this and have them be a little bit different until you explain and educate them on why it's critical for them to be aligned this way, photo this way, shot this way. And that's just one example to it. But we got the same thing from a CTA stack. Oh, I want mine to say this and mine to say this. Well, we have multiple different options, but every brand is a little bit different. Your Cadillac CTA versus your Nissan versus your Chevy versus your Ford needs to be a little different. You need to test and study those to see which one is really working best for you and convert it.
Love the group branding, love the brand guide, you mentioned that before. How do you balance, I worked for a dealer group in the past and he loved his name, but nobody knew his name, but he wanted to market his name. Costa is no, but how do you balance that with marketing individual, like Nissan or Ford, to capture those shoppers?
Yeah, so great question. How do you maintain the brand through the different OEMs we represent? Is that pretty...
It's great for online marketing. Costa's big, gives all the stuff. But what about that shop with my research?
Yes. Yeah, and that's really a multiple kind of parallel through not only mediums that you're marketing, but also is it digital, is it online, is it mail? And you have to kind of segment those to it and have that standardization. But in terms of attracting that Nissan shopper, I mean, we're in a very aggressive changing, instance right now with AEO and everything to it. So it's really, what does the community know about your Nissan or Ford or whatever brand it is experience? What are your reviews? What are you generating? And what are you doing to draw awareness to it? Because I look at marketing as 4 different types of pillars. It's a branding. Brand knows the other ones. But branding is just part of that marketing pillar. And you got to make sure you're touching at least 2 or 3 of those with the ROI dollars you're spending.
I think the number one thing I see scuttled at, which tells me that you might not be ready to actually have a brand, is a dealership that is pitting all of their general managers against each other, right? This is pretty common. Just like, oh yeah, we're all one big happy family. The Nissan store is like, I'm going to kick the Kia store's ass this month. And you're like, well, okay, well, what if you have a group site? You have to share a little bit. Like, you can't really have a brand if you're already fighting within the family, right?
All right. We're getting motion. We need to wrap it up. So thank you all for showing up.
Thanks for hanging out.